generally with your point about having some humility in these complex situations. But I would also say, like, do you not then at any point, as you're like a very well-known public figure who's supporting this war, think about the level of human suffering that is being inflicted on these innocent people and go like, man, is there another way? Maybe I'm getting this wrong. Maybe this is the Iraq war all over again, you know, which you also supported, that like maybe that was a big mistake.
I don't need to think about it. I've seen it.
Okay,
I know it. I describe it in my book. I describe what I see in Gaza with the Palestinians when they're moving down the humanitarian corridor.
Okay, let me just respond to some of the stuff you say. Okay, so then I guess it's not really that much of humility involved in this, but there's two very different goals that are being stated here, right? Like there's the retrieving the hostages, and then there's taking out Hamas. Now, the retrieving the hostages, and actually many of the families of hostages who are taken have been some of the only people really protesting this war in Israel, because of course, you know, if you imagine, if you have your family over there and your government is leveling this place, that is not the best path to pursue to make sure you get all the hostages out alive. I would say that it fell apart, but Donald Trump having his envoy Witkoff go over there and work out this ceasefire deal that they had for a few weeks, they did get, I believe, 30 hostages back during the phase one of this ceasefire. Seems to me like that would be the method to pursue to try to get the hostages back. But if you're talking about eliminating Hamas, and I think there's something kind of interesting that you touched on there. I don't completely, you know, I disagree with much of your characterization of it, that like Israel are the good guys who always follow the rules. We can kind of get into some of that. There's lots of rules, like in that.
Hello, please complete your thought, Dr. Necro.
Do everything they can to fight an asymmetrical war. And just like we helped teach Osama bin Laden how to do the Soviets, and then Osama bin Laden successfully did to us, the whole game in these asymmetrical wars is to get exactly what Hamas got out of this, right? Like Osama bin Laden knew that he couldn't bankrupt the United States of America by taking down the Twin Towers, but he thought he could lure us into a war in Afghanistan that would bankrupt us. Now, it didn't completely, but it came pretty close. That being said, well, I just mean in terms of how much it drained the treasury, it was way more than any terrorist attack could have possibly done. That being said, the idea that it's not like, I don't think, morally speaking, when you're inflicting this level of suffering on a group of people, that the calculation should be like, well, we want to remove Hamas from power. That's the goal. Justice for October 7th. There's lots of governments around the world that we would, and Hamas isn't exactly a government, but there's lots of regimes around the world that we would all like to see removed, but that doesn't mean that we would approve of any means by which to get there. If you were like, hey, I think Kim Jong-un's government should be dissolved, I'm sure we would all agree with that. If you were like, I'm going to level the place and just like slaughter people in order to do it, I'd be like, okay, hold on. But aside from that, this has been acknowledged at the highest levels of Israeli intelligence and U.S. intelligence. That there's just no way to get rid of Hamas without it being replaced by more Hamas or a Hamas-like group, because it's the basic understanding of this whole situation, right? It's General McChrystal's insurgent math. There's still Hamas are popping back up in the areas that Israel's already leveled. And the more innocent people you kill, the more radicalized you're going to get this population, the more these people are going to hate you and join up with the resistance movement. And so I just think that to use the justification that we're trying to get rid of Hamas, and therefore it's not like, it doesn't matter how many innocent women and children die in the process, or there's no responsibility on you. You now are not responsible for the bombs that you drop, how many people they kill.
No, of course you're responsible.
So Israel is responsible then?
They're responsible for the means of their retaliation and their war aims. Yes, of course. But
okay.
First of all, let me just say, I totally disagree with your characterization of Osama bin Laden and what he wanted to do, and I don't think that Osama bin Laden's stated public utterances were along those lines. But anyway, the reason why the hostages have been released, the numbers they have, is because of constant kinetic force by the IDF. Hamas does not come to the table and ever hand over hostages out of goodwill. It doesn't
Yeah, no
do it
no
out of
argument
the
there.
goodness of their own heart. It does it because of the constant kinetic force of the IDF in Gaza. And if it weren't for that, all 250 hostages would still be there. Second thing is, when it comes to Hamas itself, I totally disagree with the presumption that if you tackle a terrorist entity, you will create more terrorists. Ergo, you should not attack the terrorist entity.
That's not the argument that I'm making, but okay.
It's a commonly held argument that if you respond to terrorism, you create terrorism. And of course, the only thing in that case is you just have to sit back and take
The argument that I'm making is that when you
saying-
slaughter innocent people,
Yes,
those
but-
people around them tend to hate your guts. That's the argument that I'm making.
First of all, your characterization of the slaughter, it's horrible, the war in Gaza. It's horrible that young Israelis have to go in, yet again, to Gaza and try to find Israeli hostages and try to get the leadership of Hamas.
That's what's horrible about it.
It is not the case. Yes, because I think there's a consequence to starting wars. And
But so it's not horrible for the people who didn't start a war? Why do we become like these collectivists as soon as a war starts?
For everybody involved.
No, it's the most horrible for the Palestinian people in Gaza right now. That is the group of people who are being fucked over the most right now. No?
Yes, at the moment, yes.
Right.
But they're not being fucked over. The IDF has been moving through Gaza for 18 months. No Israeli soldier I have spoken to ever wanted to go and see the Gaza again. Okay? Nobody wanted to go back. They were dragged back because of Hamas's actions. And if Hamas had acted differently or the Palestinians had voted in different people into govern them, it would all be different. But again, that's hypothetical. The reality of the war on the ground is that in this incredibly heavily built up area, with weaponry hidden everywhere, with soldiers, I've spoken to too many of them, they go in, you have a group of people coming out of a civilian building with their hands up, and from their midst come a bunch of Hamas terrorists firing at you in the hope that the IDF will fire back at the civilians. Gadi Eisenkot, one of the members of the war cabinet in the early stages of the war, lost his own son and then his nephew. His nephew was killed in a firefight in Gaza because the Hamas terrorists were firing from a mosque. And that was why Gadi Eisenkot from the Israeli cabinet's nephew died. The whole operating theatre is hideous because of what Hamas has done to the Gaza. The reason why Sinwar cropped up in Rafah, finally, the mastermind of October the 7th, one of the most brutal, sadistic psychopaths, to use an overrated term you can ever imagine, in an Israeli prison, by the way, for having strangled Palestinians to death in the 2000s. But anyway, the reason why Sinwar crops up in Rafah late last year is because there was nowhere else for him to run because of the actions of the IDF to pursue the leadership of Hamas that was responsible for the 7th. Now, can all of Hamas be destroyed? Probably not. Can you make it effectively impossible to function or incapable of functioning, unable to fire rockets and govern the Gaza? Yes.
Right, but it
And
comes
by
at the
the way,
price tag of
hang on.
slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent people.
No.
And you're accepting that price.
No. And every single war of this kind will include civilian casualties, and you and I will almost certainly disagree on the numbers.
I'm not claiming that the health ministry's numbers are
there
perfect.
will be almost the best case analysis is that one innocent Gazan has been killed for every one terrorist. That's the best case scenario you can hear. But that would be almost unparalleled in the laws of war, and it's not how the American or British militaries operate in terms of casualties to terrorist ratios. But when we had the campaign against ISIS a decade ago, after ISIS's fighters had gone and massacred people at the Bataclan Theatre in Paris,
that never stopped. The government kept borrowing.
we used Turkish fighters, brilliant, brave fighters from the Peshmerga militias, to work on the ground. And the French and American and British air forces bombed like hell from the air. And we made ISIS, effectively, touch wood, 10 years later, operationally incapable in capital cities in Europe. Has ISIS as a whole gone away? No. They still have pockets in Syria and in Iraq, but we stopped them from being able to do what they most desired to do. And the same is possible with Hamas. Will they be replaced by some other group? Again, then we get to one of the crucial decision points for the Palestinian people. Is it inevitable that they constantly have to elect people who want to annihilate their neighbors? Or will there ever be a generation that can find a way to live in peace with their neighbors? I agree. Most people don't like being bombed. In fact, nobody does. But if the people, the Palestinians in Gaza, can find it within themselves to realize the thing they asked for in the elections is the thing that has destroyed the area they live in. And like that brave young man 2 weeks ago in Gaza who rose up against Hamas and was identified by the people who remain in Hamas and was tortured and his body thrown onto his parents' doorstep in the Gaza. The parents started the clan started a bit of a war against Hamas, but that's how Hamas treats Palestinian dissidents. But if there were more people like that young man, and of course we all know that the history of totalitarian and terrorist groups running societies is they're very successful and they stay in power because they're willing to torture and use violence and much more. That it's a horrible thing you have to contend with. But if more people like that young man had come about in Gaza in the last 18 months or before, yes, it would all be different. And if they could avoid electing a terrorist group that invades their neighbors and fires rockets at their neighbors, yes, it could all be different. It could all be different tomorrow. And I'll tell you, so again, there is not a person living by the Gaza in the south of Israel who does not dream of the day that such a generation of Palestinians emerges.
Yeah. I think that okay, I have a few things here. On Syria there, because it is true. I mean, I think so. Okay, so John Brennan and Barack Obama, the head of the CIA, and of course the former president of the United States of America, had a policy of committing literal treason before they ended up accusing Donald Trump of treason, which was all bullshit. But they had a policy of committing literal treason by funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS in the Syrian civil war, poured billions of dollars and tons of weapons into that conflict. When Donald Trump, now it is true, by the way, that you are correct, that like there certainly were military actions taken against ISIS after they invaded Iraq, which was not supposed to be part of the plan. There was also a lot of military actions taken by Vladimir Putin against ISIS after he came in on Assad's request, as you know. In 2017, when Donald Trump came in, one of the best things Donald Trump ever did, he cut off the CIA program to fund the anti-Assad rebels. And this was also a big part of what ended up like taking the energy out of ISIS. Also, I think there was a lot of good reporting that just they turned enough people on the ground against them. They were even just too radical and just people ended up hating them. It is true that they receded for quite a while, although the former emir of Al-Qaeda, al-Jawani, is now ruling Syria, which does not seem like a great deal or something that people in America should support.
No, one that does not allow cruelty.
Love does not allow cruelty. Yes, I would agree with that. But I would only agree with that. I would only agree with that definition of love as a phenomenon. Do you understand the difference between the noumenal and the phenomenal? The phenomenal is what we see and what we comprehend.
Okay.
You kind of see where I'm getting at? So there's a noumenal love, which God is and participates in, and there's a phenomenal love, which human beings act in and practice. So, for instance, an act of phenomenal love is any associated behavior that treats two as if they're one. For instance, compassion. If I'm compassionate, I'm sharing your suffering as if it's my own. If I'm charitable, I'm sharing my food or my resources as if you are me. I'm extending my sense of self to.
Served in the U.S. military. And I have plenty of friends of every freaking ethnicity and culture that you can imagine. We're all green suit family because we all wore the green suit.
My phone has crashed.
There is no desire for that. Does it happen collaterally? Certainly. And that is one of the very ugly rules of war and things that happens in war. And it's another of the reasons why it's almost like you shouldn't start a war and hide your rockets and your terrorists inside civilian buildings.
Yeah, but hang on. You've made this point a lot of times, but okay.
Well, it clearly can't be made enough because there is no intention on the Israeli side to cause the death of non-combatants.
Oh, come on. I mean, listen.
What? You think? Why do you think the Israelis would want to go and kill children in Gaza?
Listen. Let me just. How about I say it like this, okay? And by the way, when I say it like this, I'm not claiming that disputes between nations are the same as handling dispute domestically. I'm just saying on the idea of intentionality or who wants to do this or whatever. Look, even if you had the right, let's say, somebody broke onto your property and killed some of your family members and you want to go kill this guy. If he goes back to his apartment building and you know that there's women and children in that apartment building, and so your move is to blow up the building, what you would be charged with is murder in the first degree. Cold-blooded, premeditated, intentional.
So, this is kind of like, to me, it's like going back to Descartes' statement, if we're going to go into like, uncertainty that there's no way we can know about God's standards of goodness, saying that God is mysterious, then how do you decide that God was the good one to begin with? Because
It's intuition, Matt. Necro, it's just your intuition. It's an intelligence. It's called your intuition. He didn't like it, they kicked me.
Shooting the gun down the street and nobody said anything. You go to Philadelphia and you better duck. It's just cognitive dissonance, not like
information
I really
that
just
they
said,
believe
I'm not sure who said
some degree of
the
certainty
white man or
that a couple
whatever
of Hamas militants are in this building
comparing
and
to
going to
black,
blow up the
black
building.
people. I've
That is
never heard that
intentionally
here in this
murdering innocent people. And if you're going to advocate for this
bro,
war,
do you
I
got
don't
an
see how
idea
you
of
can
why
do it without
black men
saying
commit
that,
most
at
of
least
the murders, bro?
bite the bullet that Madeleine Albright did when she was asked, that we've played this clip on the show before, when she's point blank asked about the sanctions on Iraq and our 500,000 children, is that price acceptable? And she said, yes, we believe that price is acceptable. You're saying if you're going to support this war,
Basically, where the conversation started from in terms of like prayer.
Welcome back to another episode of Low IQ Dumb People, wasting a beautiful Saturday night talking about nothing.
Information, as if this is like what they're making it up, or you think the Israelis want to drop a bomb, or they act on information about where the terrorists are, just like they act on information of where the hostages are. Secondly, when you talk about the destruction of the Gaza, something you probably haven't realized, but is one of the reasons why the destruction looks so bad and is so bad, is because when the IDF were clearing the areas that they'd asked the civilian population to leave and were going house to house, and it isn't just stories here or stories there, it's every second or third house in Gaza that has either munitions or tunnel entrances. Every second or third house. This is not the odd case. One of the things that everybody who has been there knows is that you go into a mosque and you know there will be either rockets and or tunnel entrances. You go into a hospital and you know that there will be grenades or tunnel entrances or dungeons or whatever. Just on a lighter note, early in the conflict when the Shifa complex, which is used as a Hamas headquarters and has also been used as a hospital, but even in 2014 the BBC said this is where Hamas are operating from. When that was shown by the Israelis, we have massive weapons stores in the tunnels and cellars underneath it. They had grenades, RPGs, Kalashnikovs, and the BBC's chief Middle East correspondent was asked live on air, why would these things be in a hospital? And Jeremy Bowen said, well, it's perfectly possible because there's a lot of, guns in the Middle East, it's perfectly possible the security department of the hospital had the Kalashnikovs. I said, yeah, and did the grenades belong to the cardiologists? I mean, why? Why is this so normal that every civilian building like this and every second or third house in Gaza is a weapons dump or a place that you enter the tunnels from? But the reason why the devastation, which it is, in the north in particular, but also in Rafah and elsewhere, is what it is because every time the IDF went into an area where they had told the civilians to leave, the Hamas terrorists that remained were in civilian buildings and booby-trapped a very large number.
Free, but at the time of the battle, he was an enslaved person. So, the professional historical consensus says no confirmed free black defenders fought at the Alamo. Black individuals present were enslaved at the time of the battle. So anyway, so I said, well, you know what? Let's try to steelman the opposite argument, and let's fight just for the opposite, right? And so this is what we got for fourth. This would be the thesis. While formal rousters do not list free black defenders at the Alamo, it is plausible that at least one free black individual participated and formally supported the defense or otherwise aided in capacity close enough to be considered a fighter, but was omitted from official records due to racial prejudice, oversight, or the informality of militia recruitment in the chaos of Texas Revolution. So, this would be the strongest case for fourth. Historical record keeping was poor and biased. The Alamo's defenders were a mix of volunteers, not a strictly organized, uniformed army. Rosters were compiled after the battle from memory, secondhand accounts, and surviving documents, often excluding marginalized individuals, enslaved people, Tejanos, foreigners. Black individuals, free or enslaved, may not have been formally recognized even if they fought. Free black people in Texas at the time faced extreme racial prejudice, and many whites would not have acknowledged a black man as an equal soldier even if they had fought. The presence of free black people in Texas. There were free black men in Texas at the time of the Texas Revolution between 1835 and 1836. William Goyens, a free black man, was a prominent figure supporting the Texas Revolution, though not at the Alamo. Free blacks were involved elsewhere in the Revolution, suggesting it was at least possible one could have been at the Alamo. Joe, Travis's servant, and other accounts, Joe, though enslaved, gave an account of the fighting. He may have fought in defense of his master. In chaotic moments, enslaved individuals could act in the self-defense or in defense of their immediate communities. It's plausible that a free black man, either associated with the defenders or present among the civilians, picked up arms during the siege, even if they weren't officially listed.
Guys are fucking in trouble over there in Ukraine, that's for sure.
Oral histories and lost records. Later oral histories and
you guys need to
traditions,
negotiate
especially in black
peace.
communities, claim free black men, black involvement at the Alamo. Okay, oral histories often preserve truths omitted from written records, especially when formal histories were written by the dominant class. Pragmatic military necessity. Under siege, the Alamo defenders needed all hands. In a life or death battle, it's plausible that anyone capable of bearing arms, including a free black man present for other reasons, would have been armed and fought alongside them. So, summarizing for us as a stalemate argument, although there's no conclusive roster listing a free black man as an Alamo defender, given the chaotic nature of the battle, the known presence of the free blacks in Texas, oral traditions, and the racial biases in historical recording, it is plausible that a free black individual could have fought at the Alamo, but was omitted from official documentation.
So none of the names that Ford was talking about got it.
What names did I mention?
Oh my fucking god.
There you go. Stop playing games.
So you're a wishy-washy arguer? Hold on, and just also, Philip Thomas Tucker, in his book Exodus from the Alamo, suggests that marginalized groups' roles, including the Tejanos, am I saying that right, and blacks, have been systematically minimized in the traditional Alamo narrative. He's a controversial mainstream historian, but represents the kind of evidence that Forth could cite to bolster his case.
Damn, he said you're with the loonies. But anyway, I want to point out how far apart like that Ford is. Like saying, he's saying you talk about North Carolina, Virginia. It's almost like Ford doesn't realize that when the Alamo happened, Texas was a fucking country, right? And I just want to point that out because I just, as a Texan, I think that that should be pointed out. You're a Texan, right, Ford? And I think you should know that part of your history. Yeah, you're welcome.
And that really meant nothing.
But hey.
Yeah, really meant nothing.
Bro, ChatGPT smoke She had to make a prompt that said, okay, I know what you just said, right? But like, are you going to decide what you do?
No. Agent, forward class, y'all know. I'm surprised. I was seriously.
That's great.
Are y'all serious?
On Saturday.
Poor dead ass Nathan Dante. That's fucking hilarious, Nathan. He was talking about, oh, look, your names are inscribed. Go to the Alamo. He said, go to the Alamo and see their name. And ChatGPT's best argument for him says that those names aren't preserved, but it's plausible that this guy slipped through the cracks and wasn't written down. So all of his comments about those people were actually free. The people who are written at the Alamo are thrown out the window. Like they're chucked out from the 7th floor and go splat. Okay? I want to say that.
No.
It's
Now, did Nathan just support me?
Huh? Sure, man, he did.
Support me?
Yeah, so you know what happens when Nathan supports you, bro? You lose it.
Shut up. Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
Let me go.
Okay.
See, all right. If Nathan just supported me, I have to just go on mute because it's never a good thing when Nathan supports me.
Damn.
He's gonna support the slave
It's
owners
okay.
before he wants Nathan's support. That's sad.
You know what? That's a man of conviction and morals that he does not bend to. I respect that for him.
Yeah, see, respectable.
Out of all the people, Nathan, damn it.
How's it going, folks?
Me and Chili's getting a
Hey, Mike.
How's it going, Dana? What's up tonight? How's everybody doing?
And Chili was chilling in the booth. Everybody around.
You guys look like you're having fun. Everybody looks like they're having
It's
fun.
not fair.
So,
You cannot do this to me, Nathan.
I'm sorry. No, it looks like you guys are having, or it sounds like everyone's having a good time. And I am glad to see that, or hear that.
I'm not having a good time. Let me put.
Oh, shit, man, I'm sorry. Why? Tell me about it.
I know. I'm not joking. I'm not even being facetious. You did a good job, huh?
All right, tell me why you're not having a good time, brother. I'll come out there and give you a hug. I swear to fucking God.
You're fun. Nathan believe you did a good job. He doesn't know you did a good job. He was here the whole time.
No, Nathan has a belief, but not a justified belief. That's how you would phrase it, man.
Who moved Mike to the audience? Who moved Mike to the go?
What the fuck?
Messed up. Who's responsible for the blasphemy? The only person that I can count on to know that it wasn't was knowledge, because knowledge is the best. Knowledge is the number one.
Bro, I was gonna say
Get some water. More importantly, Matt, I think you did get spanked again today, man.
No, I didn't.
What happened? Why'd I get moved down?
It came to. Sorry, it could have been an error.
Nah, it's fine, guys. If you don't want positive reinforcement, I can leave. It's fine.
We want positive reinforcement.
All right.
Well,
That's very sweet. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, all you guys are awesome. And when you look in the mirror, you should smile.
Amen.
Yeah, Nathan.
You're damn right.
Did you guys ever play
So
this
when
song?
I look in the mirror, I have this 40-year-old dad bod, but I try to smile. I'm just saying.
Are you serious?
You know, sometimes I'm on Clubhouse and I
Nathan!
like I feel anxiety about Nathan. I feel anxiety about getting older and being like a lot of people on Clubhouse, right? Then I hear stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it'll work out. You know, like smile in the mirror. That's fucking awesome. And Nathan just chucked him down, bro. That's fucking horrible. It's horrible.
Lincoln, are you sure about that?
Huh?
Are you sure about
About what?
Teasers, bro. These 40-year-old plus people in this room. You think
Bro, but
it's
have
gonna be
you
all right
heard?
when you get...
No. When I hear Mike say something, I'm like, just look, I'm 40, but I try to smile. It gives me the same energy. Like, I like the way I look, even though I look like a burnt chicken nugget type of energy, and I feel like there's hope out there. Like, there's a probability of me making it to 40, not like show early signs of being senile.
And then you got the other Mike, who's in his 40s, who yells at people.
Yeah, but I'm not
also enjoyable.
I mean, wrong one. That is enjoyable. I criticized Mike for doing that shit. He was really annoying.
You got knowledge in here whose knees are fucked up.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's knowledge. How are you? Well, knowledge works on concrete.
Pause.
No, knowledge doesn't work on concrete anymore. Yes, Mexicans do.
Knowledge, that's an FBI ain't Gary County.
Hey, knowledge. How do I join you and Abdul speaking?
He was here in the morning, Nate.
I'm talking about right now with Puerto Rican.
Wait, what?
Interesting.
Did you know that today?
I'm sorry, what were you talking about, Nathan?
Did you all know that? I didn't hear any Christian talk about the death of Jesus Christ today. No one cared about the 14th of Nisan.
It's the Sabbath.
Nathan, did you watch the Ethiopian Orthodox Harvard student cook Cliff and his son?
Cook what?
Cliff, the evangelical preacher that's famous on YouTube with his son. They're on all the George Janko podcasts. They're on Logan Paul's podcast.
No, I gotta see it. Send me a link.
Oh, he fucking killed him. I'll send it back.
Damn, I just know that because I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, so I have a lot of people who are like, hey, I don't know how you're doing because they.
But now I'm a Jehovah informant.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you work for Jehovah?
Oh goddamn, bro! It's fucking god. They always hit me up with the same thing at on this time of year. They're like, hey, I don't know how you're doing. I hope you're doing well. It's kind of like this place, like you're talking to a homeless person who was right in the middle of shooting heroin but stopped, and they feel like they can save you from shooting heroin at that moment. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing great. Like, yeah. And they're like, well, you should go to the death of Jesus Christ. He loves you. I'm like, thanks. So, yeah.
So no one keeps up with apologetics in this room? I assume that you guys do.
I used to keep up with apologetics. I was into all those debates.
Because there's some I watch a few guys. There's some pretty good debates for sure.
Well,
But
Ford's
I
a Methodist, so he doesn't count.
Side that wrong yet again. Chili's, you want to correct your little brother?
Fourth, aren't you like a Methodist?
No.
Yeah, 100% a Methodist. Don't you have like a woman pastor
So
like that?
just keep on running on with the same thing. You just like being wrong, huh? Well, just take a little.
It's young, bro. This is all the young ones do.
Nathan, your brother's looking for some support here. He needs some love. Give him some support, please.
Get him, chill.
Knowledge, are you by your mic?
Hispanic women. I was really liking some Hispanic women too. Damn.
Nah. You can't have Hispanic women. You gotta have whites. That's what you do.
No.
Are you worthy of
I want a Puerto Rican. I want a Asian.
No, you can't have those.
That's exactly what I want.
I want a Puerto Rican. I want an
That's
Asian.
disgustingly specific.
Some moonshine and a bald eagle in the sky.
No, I need the burger, sir.
All right. I'm not gonna yell, but this is one of the counts that John Edmond has, and that he records the room. And since the House has gotten into trouble recently for playing recordings without people's permission, I wanted the leaders of the House to know.
Cool. What? What?
I put it in the chat.
I say.
I blame Beamer. Whatever happened, it's all Beamer's fault.
I'll take the blame. I'll take the blame. Listen, I'm not gonna say that I'm upset that you pointed it out, but I'm also gonna say that I am happy that there have been times where my ass has been gaslit so hard. Good afternoon, Knowledge. And dragged. For example, last night, someone in the room called me a liar. Then proceeded to say that I was neurotic, saying that shit didn't happen the way that I know that it happened. And it's good to have the support and the evidence that I'm not crazy. Because sometimes we got credible people. Like, the person is perceivably one of the more, I mean, they carry a green badge. I'm not going to say any names. But fact of the matter is they were wrong. And I was nice. I want to just let everybody know I was nice. I said, you know what? I figured out a couple things, and I'll only play it if you give me permission. And, of course, they declined. They didn't say I had permission to play it.
Can you repeat the last part? I don't know if you said I was nice or I was ice, because it has a completely different outcome depending on the answer.
Well, I am ice, but... Oh, wait, no, ice... I was thinking like, no, never mind. Hold on. Hold on, wait, that was an innocent. Wait. I am not a horrible person, so I didn't think, like, I didn't associate immediately with, like, I was like,
y'all heard her say
I was thinking, like,
right? Y'all heard her say
That's hilarious. Do you know what? I don't know why this is maybe I'm just an idiot, but I was thinking like ice cold, like, you know, cool, like I was ice. I don't know. Do you guys?
Yeah, you ice cold already. Got that heart box full of damn ice in there. Go ahead, ice.
Oh, damn.
Yo, Pops, you gonna let that happen?
Listen, she said she had a recording. She called me a liar, and she still gonna play the recording. She said, I said play the recording. No, I'm not gonna play the recording. No, I'm not. Just don't ever.
I do still have it. If you want me, I could go find it. If you really want to. I could. If you really want me to?
Yes, I really want.
I'm not gonna do that to you. I could. I could.
Do it.
All right. According to, let's see.
Do it.
I need more credible people that can think for me. If you think I should do it, do a thumbs up, okay? Do a thumbs up. If you think I should not, do an X.
Do what? Restate the question.
Get a recording that proves that Nathan said that I was like psychotic, and then he was referring to when I was telling him how Guava could be telling me the truth.
What?
He said, no, I said that Guava only tells me the truth, and that multiple truths could be true at the same time. And then he proceeded to say some other stuff. No, because no. And listen, Pops can tell you all about this because Pops is Pops, you can tell the room about, I don't want to share all of your stuff, but you've been going down a particular rabbit hole recently, and about multiple truths, right? How two things could be true. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. You mean most recently what we were talking about, or the other thing we're talking about the whole time thing? Are you talking about like today?
No, not today. Not today.
Okay, not today.
So it sounds like there's
the paradox. The paradox.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah, but I'll you can keep going, and I'm multitasking again. I got stuff going.
He's building. He said the mayor.
The word was the word for one truth. The word we were talking about.
It can be to more than one truth. You're right. I mean, if that's what you're alluding to, there could be more than one.
And that was the case. And when I checked, and I was right, because my girl doesn't lie to me. She never lies to me. So I asked her, and of course, the explanation was as simple as yes, there was multiple truths. Both things were true.
Okay, cool. So what happened was this, right? The word was apophenia, right? And Huey would say, Nathan, you ever heard about it before? I was like, no. And he was like, yeah. This is saying the word is, means that a person has the tendency to perceive a connection or a meaningful pattern between unrelated or random things.
Right, like seeing a face at an airplane.
Yeah, so I said, Beamer, this is you, right? And I said this in relation because she asked us, she thinks that this guy Shamos is an actual genuine person. When in fact he's a troll. And I kept on telling her he's a troll, but she kept on seeing something. And I said this to her. And then you know what she told me? You're lying. What you was actually talking about is my relationship with Guava. And I said, no, I'm telling you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you and Shamos. No, you liar. You're telling me about me and Guava. You're telling me because that's the only way. All right.
Yes, that's actually, I'm very surprised, Nathan. I'm very surprised. That is how it went down. So yeah, that is the truth. That is how it went down. I mean, like that's the account. Like that's the argument. No, that's the argument, right? That was an accurate recall of what our
argument. Why you gonna call me a liar? For me telling you why I said the word.
Because if you listen to the content, well, I'll tell you. You asked, why you gotta play me? Why you gotta bring up how much melanin I got in my damn skin? That's not fair. It's not fair.
That doesn't need to tell people what they actually believe or what they actually said. I'm telling you what I said, and you're telling me no, that's not what you meant to say.
So if I get melanin injections, is that gonna change?
Only white people do that, man. It's just who you are. You just feel the same.
If I get melanin injections, would that change the circumstance?
You just listen. If you happen to do it,
that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, let me just finish, bro. Anyway, if you happen, like maybe put the melanin injections when you were younger, it probably would have fixed you. But you're older white, and if you're older white, you already sent me away.
Oh, she's getting melanin injections, all right.
That's not enough.
Grateful I woke up again.
That's fucked up, guys. What the fuck is wrong? Who said that? Kendall?
No, that's Plant Daddy. That's my Plant Daddy. Okay, Nathan, I will get a Plant Daddy.
Yeah, I just want to know how is this
okay, we can clear it up.
Bacon is funny. You know that, right? Do not sound anything on it.
No, I don't know anyone who sounds like me. Sometimes I get concrete, but that's.
I swear I thought that was Kendo. I swear to God I thought it was Kendo. It was innocent. I'm driving. I thought, oh shit, yo, what's up, Kendo? That was gonna be my next line.
And for the record, I'm Plant Daddy everyone.
Can we please kick this person that's recording the room?
Yes.
I'm gonna go down to the audience.
Who is that?
Actually, no people in the room because somebody clearly sent Nathan a recording of my voice the other day, and Nathan played it to the room.
Are you not entertained? I am not entertained. I bring you the world famous chillism and you kick me from your room. How dare you? How dare you? I give you more extremely stupid hypnosis on how to waste your time.
40 acres and mule. Government never even fucking.
Jeremy, of course it's Jeremy talking about 40 acres and a mule.
The reason why that's
Oh
important.
my God.
Look at the South, right? Especially when you see people like
Hello?
the upper middle class. You know, so and so's parents have.
Hello?
So and so's family has had this. You know,
Hello?
for 60 years, 70 years, whatever.
Hello?
Farmland for 100+ years.
Hello?
It's not that it doesn't happen for
Hello?
but it's that it's a lot less common because we just didn't have the same access to the things that were available.
Peace, love, health, and wealth.
Country. And I think that when we look at it from that perspective,
Hello?
it changes from being white.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
Clubhouse, you're talking about extremely stupid hypnosis time. Clubhouse is literally
the past and the future
ran itself
human
into the
constructs.
fucking pavement.
That's actually becoming more popular in physics as well.
Okay, so then I
mean,
guess then this
like,
original
you know that I've been on this thing
state
probably
being,
more than
right,
most.
State of affairs
You know,
that existed or exists in always involved another consciousness.
No.
Okay, so now I'm lost. I feel like I feel like a couple times I've asked something that seems to make sense to me and I miss it. Am I the only one? Like, am I missing this? Because I feel like you did say God is consciousness. And then
You just don't know the esoteric truths like Dr. Biscuit, honey. So would you say that you have run the full course here?
I would say I've ran the gambit more than once.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't have a party hat now. Is this your original account? Let's see. No, it's not.
No, this is my fourth one. I just renamed myself back to the original name.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, you know, you've run the full course, meaning that, like, you're a PhD. But the question is, if you have a PhD, well, what are you going to do with it?
For some
does that mean I'm a psychohat disciple?
To the birds. I kid you not. And when you start to really listen to the birds, right, you will hear some of the most biggest hits you've ever heard before. You hear them singing them in the park.
I mean,
Welcome.
hopefully mine's not made out of tinfoil.
Welcome, Mama. How are you, Mama?